Okay, hey, there we go. Hey guys, everybody, TG here, also on the social medias. I think we got audio now. Great. I wanted to kind of show you guys this. Yeah, thanks, loud and clear. And I think we should be good out on the social medias too. We got YouTube, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. So fingers crossed there that all the technology is working. I'm on my laptop out at my wife's family's beach house. We got a bunch of family here, and the weather this morning is a little gloomy, a little cold, but that tends to be a Washington situation. Then it turns out to be nice and sunny later in the day. So I am here working on market stuff. So anyway, what you guys have probably been seeing this week is that maybe the mega caps are kind of coming down. There are some things that are pulling back, but have you guys been noticing that all these garbage stocks are starting to just absolutely explode? Like look at GoPro or Kohl's or Donut, which is Krispy Kreme. We got Flowers.com. We got Wendy's. We have Beyond Meat. I mean, all of these ridiculous names are starting to just go crazy. And, they're obviously short squeezes. A lot of these stocks are garbage stocks. They've been going down for over a year. And then suddenly they turn around, spike up, they go up, and open door. These things are going absolutely bonkers. And basically, it's kind of like the whole GameStop situation all over again. The Wall Street bets, whatever they get out there, they find all the stocks that have all the high short interest, and then they all pile on them at once to get into here and start to squeeze the shorts out of them. Yeah, Shoe Carnival, I'll have to look at that one too. And I think kind of, I tend to see these things towards the end of a bull cycle, usually because at this point, everything's already up. So kind of the risk to reward isn't there to keep chasing things to the long side. It's getting a little bit frothy out there. And then you think, well, people who have been trading, they've got a lot of cash, they got a lot of money because, well, we've had a really good market. So they've been taking profits and now they're just flush and they got to figure out what to do with this extra cash. And if they can take their extra cash and winnings from all their other previous big moves that we've been seeing since April, well, they take, I don't know, 1%, 2% of their accounts, because whatever, it's house money at this point. And then they start going after all these names that, number one, have not moved, that they haven't been running for the last 3 months. They're fresh opportunities. And then they're just like piranhas. They're going after all these names with short squeezes, with high short interest. So it's pretty tough to figure out when this is going to happen and which names are going to go. I mean, you can try and listen to that Wall Street Bets Discord group and try to figure out which one is the right one to go after. But I think I've come across one that has potential, and this is Wolf. And I know, everyone keeps telling me they are filed for bankruptcy. This is an absolute garbage stock. Okay, just so you guys know that, absolutely garbage stock. But it has a 50% short interest. This is exactly the right kind of candidate that would be a short squeeze. And as you can see, this thing is already, from yesterday, it's moved up this morning. You can see they moved it up about 5% initially. And then now up here, they got it to about 40%. And right now it's sitting at about 30% in just a matter of hours. And I looked it up. I actually kind of knew about this name. I would never trade this name normally, but kind of what's happening out there with this whole short squeeze situation, I saw this. It still looked ripe. It still had potential. It wasn't too carried away. It wasn't too crazy. I wasn't like on the third day of a short squeeze, which is kind of risky. This looks like the first move, the first pop. Now, I have no idea if this is actually going to work. This could pop up and totally fizzle. That's kind of the tough thing about all these garbage stocks and short squeezes. Is it going to catch fire? That's really kind of the question here. Is can the bulls, can the people in here, can they buy enough? Can they make the shorts get scared? And can they kind of start that chain reaction of getting this thing to actually carry forward a little bit further and start triggering those short exits, those short stops, and start making the bears get on the run and have to exit and then just start this chain reaction to the upside. That's really what it comes down to. Again, I have no idea if this is actually going to work. I have taken a small position on this. I put it out into the Moxie room, and you can see there is volume here. I mean, this thing has an average daily volume of, call it 89 million, like 90 million shares, and we're already at that, and we're only an hour and a half in the morning. So clearly there's a lot of volume here. There's a lot of action happening. You can see the volume spike, and there was a volume spike before. You can see that this thing has moved up previously. And then really the kind of question is like, well, how is this going to go? Is it going to just keep ripping today? Or does it need to take a day? Because you can see that previously, kind of maybe I think it was looks like that took about 2 days. It popped up, consolidated for 2 days, and then popped up again and then ran. And by the time this thing really moved, you had one move, two move, and then you had that third move, and then it was over. And so something like this, well, today's Wednesday, and then we have Thursday and then Friday. There is no way I'm going to be holding this thing over the weekend. I just don't really want to be doing that on something like this. So right now you can see that price here on the 15-minute and the hourly is a little extended. And you can see it's kind of coming right into a previous price area. And so I think it's got some digesting to do. It looks to me like it needs to kind of bull flag a little bit, get closer to some of the moving averages, all of that, and then we see if it can actually do something to the upside. Oh, nice. We got Trading Old. We got you from Germany. Welcome. Yeah, this thing is all over the place. It's funny. I was talking to some of the family members over here last night, and they were talking about remote work. And I said, yeah, we've been remote for a few years now. I said, honestly, it's because the stock market is basically remote anyway. It's just that everything for the stock market is online. It's digital. So, we got subscribers from all over the world. And so, yeah, God, the stock market's kind of been a remote job for decades at this point. Marco, good to see you. I think I see you, giving me those thumbs up and comments on YouTube all the time. So thanks for the love and appreciation and support. So yeah, guys, this is just going to be kind of a roll the dice situation with Wolf. Again, we have no idea if this is going to work. It's a little bit risky. If it doesn't work and comes all the way back down to where it began, that is 20% down. So I kind of set a stop below that. So I'm willing to kind of throw 20%, maybe 25% risk on this as far as a potential failure if it just doesn't work. I'll lose 25% of what I put in, at least for the stock. Now, the other interesting thing, let me take a screenshot of this because Wolf has, let's see, it has, if you look at this week, so July 25th option series on the calls. Let me see if I can get this over here for you. There you go. I think that's going to work much better. Let me get this screenshot. Check this out. There you go. Sorry, I'm on my laptop, so it's a little bit slow. Let me zoom in. Look at that. So if the short squeeze is a thing, you can see that there are people who are just absolutely piling into this. Now, maybe that's not a lot of money because 58,000 contracts at probably an average price of 20 cents, isn't a ton. But you can see that clearly there's a lot of action here, and I think that's the idea: is people are buying this with the idea for the short squeeze, and it's probably a complete gamble. Roll the dice. We'll see if this thing works. That is just the nature of short squeezes, and we shall see. Hopefully sometime soon, because you can see here we are just now starting to come into the 15-minute 8 EMA, which is at least starting to fill the gap in through here. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what this thing does. I'll show you a couple examples of some of the absolute garbage that has been popping up and going crazy like this. Like GoPro. I mean, look at this thing. GoPro has clearly been going down for over a year. And I will say it did actually set up on the daily chart. This actually looks pretty great. Moxie Crew, look at this. It even set up at 250 on the daily chart. I mean, amazing. The setup is there. And then you can see here's the Moxie price trigger. And then it really just started to take off. I mean, legitimately, the setup was there. I just don't know if I would have ever looked at GoPro. Now, maybe the other thing to say is that if you use the Moxie indicator and you use the scanner, you would have seen that the Moxie price trigger not only showed up on GoPro on the hourly chart just a couple days ago, it also showed up a few weeks ago on the daily chart. Now, again, I don't know if I would have ever traded this thing, especially back then. But if you start seeing what's happening with the market and the conditions out here, and you start seeing that things are getting a little froggy and a little crazy out there, and you do the scan, and GoPro shows up in your thing, and like, hey, if the setup is there, maybe you kind of go for it. If you're willing to do this kind of stuff. But look at this thing. Average daily volume is 5 million shares, and you're up at 188 million shares today. I mean, just insanity as far as what's happening out there. It kind of feels like late stage bull market to me. Nice, Keith. Okay, so it looks like Wolf ended up bouncing off of the 5-minute VWAP. Cool. I will have to just kind of let that thing ride. You guys tell me if that thing starts to implode, and then we'll kind of go back and talk to it. But since I'm on my laptop, I can't see all of my screens right now. I do have my second screen, but I'm taking that up with you in the chat. Now, on the flip side, remember, these are short squeezes, guys. These are absolute garbage stocks that are spiking for no other reason that they are garbage stocks, and they have a huge short interest, and there is a coordinated effort to buy them and get them squeezed on the long side. Again, GameStop. Just remember, this is the whole GameStop situation. So the other side of this is that because these are short squeezes, and because they can't last forever usually, and they get super darn extended, you can also do this on the other side. So we actually shorted open, and we're doing pretty well. If you took stock, because I know we don't have all option traders in here, you can just short open, which I did in one of my accounts, and we shorted it right here. And so we are on the stock, I'm up 41%. And funny enough, I think I'm actually up the same amount on the option, simply because there's a lot of IV, implied volatility, in this thing. And that, I think, let me see where we're at. We are up, yeah, like 33%. We're actually up. We would be up more on the shorting the stock than buying the put. And I think that's simply because of all the implied volatility that's baked into this thing. So, but that was a great short. I saw this thing just have an explosive day, a ridiculous day on Monday, I think that was. And then on Tuesday, it bounced a little bit. And I thought, boom, that's got to be it. And sure enough, I mean, we that is just a perfect short entry. We nailed this thing right there. We nailed it at like almost $4 yesterday morning and shorted it. And great trade on that one. So pretty happy about that. Yeah, Josh, I did think I think I saw you mention Wolf, and yeah, I know you guys have been mentioning Wolf, but again, I would never trade Wolf other than starting to see that everyone is starting to short squeeze everything right now. And Peloton, let's see how that thing is doing. Suresh, hard to borrow on open. Would it not be risky to short these stocks? Well, if it's hard to borrow, that just means they're going to, well, it's hard to borrow. It's hard to get shares to short. And like, it's going to be hard to borrow it if you want to short it. So either you can't short it, if your broker can't get a hold of it, and they'll just say, sorry, can't short it. Or two, they're going to charge you a daily interest fee. And if it's reasonable, fine. If it's not reasonable, then decide what you want to do. Or if you do the put, if you buy options, that should be fine. You could do that, and just don't take assignment, because maybe it's going to be difficult to take assignment, or they're going to charge you interest rates. So that's really what it comes down to. I mean, look, all of this is going to be risky. It's risky because if you try and short something too early and they continue to short squeeze it, well, you're going to be one of the ones on your back heels, needing to get out and fueling the short squeeze. So, this is a game of kind of wild west, and if you're going to do it, you got to get it right. And so far, it looks like we've gotten the open door short accurate and correct. So I'm happy about that. As far as the Wolf, I'll check back in a little bit, see how that thing's doing. Peloton, yeah, maybe. I don't know what the short interest is on this thing. Let me see if I can look that up real quick. Let's see, PTON. 18% short float. It's got a little something. So, and it's funny, you guys are mentioning like, okay, garbage stocks, isn't this risky? All that kind of stuff. That leads me to thinking about this. I just want to remind you guys now, everybody in the Moxie room, you're kind of already set, but since the social media session, I got a lot of eyeballs and new faces out there. This special is going to be expiring in about 10 days. So July 31st is going to be the last day of the special. And then August 8th. So August 8th, it's a Thursday. I think it's 2 Thursdays from now. We're going to be I'm going to be teaching you guys how to choose good stocks. Again, I know it's kind of funny because I'm all talking about Wolf right now, which is an absolute garbage stock, but we're doing that for a specific reason. What we're talking about during this next Moxie breakout session is about how to choose great stocks. And that kind of thing makes me think of if we look at A-Lab, because I think I had a few questions from this. People are like, how did you know how to get this? Now, I wasn't the only one. I saw that we had Sam was talking about this, Danielle was talking about this, Henry was talking about this. I didn't know any of them were talking about it because I run my own room, I do my own thing, but apparently we were all eyeballing the same thing. So this was a really great setup, and for simpler traders found this thing, and maybe we help push this thing up. But there was a squeeze, there was a nice bull flag. We even had the Moxie price trigger here. I mean, you can see that right there. So really, really cool, great stuff. And this is how we get out there and we find stocks. The other thing, now Lucid, maybe it's not a great stock at the time. I think it's becoming a great stock, but same deal is I started making alerts and buying something like this before it moved. We bought some here, and we bought some more here. And then this thing exploded. Now, it's obviously better to be lucky than be right. Of course, we need a little luck in this game and how these things just kind of work out. But there were some clues. And so I just want to make sure that those of you out there, wondering how to do better in this market and, take advantage of things like this, we're here for. And I know it's kind of like, oh, we're always advertising, but you know what? Every single one of you who is in the Moxie room right now knows about the Moxie room because we did some sort of advertising, and I would imagine you're pretty happy about being here because we're having a great time. We're doing some great trades and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of just the nature of the beast. I mean, look at this. You guys saw this thing that I just posted the other day. Brandon, I don't know if you're still in here, ears on or anything, but this is incredible. I mean, pretty wild that he's even talking about this. I think he had neck surgery, and while he's been recovering in the hospital, he was able to pay for his entire surgery while trading in the Moxie. Yeah, Brandon, thanks. I mean, this is awesome. This just is such an awesome experience to think about. you know, it's cool stuff. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. Obviously, I'm using it for marketing purposes, but that's just awesome. Congrats. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad you found some entertainment out there, and I'm glad you paid for your bills. That's what we're here for. And that's the kind of stuff we're doing. That's what I hope Lucid's going to be doing. I mean, look at this thing. It's a beast. So we'll see if at some point there's a way to get into more of this. So, yeah, good job. All right. On that note, there are still some other big, strong names. Brighter side, if you're out there, if you got your ears on in the Moxie room, you have been all over this one as well. So this is Weeble. And yeah, whether this is a Wall Street bets thing or it's just actually, doing pretty well, you've been talking about this thing in the Moxie room with us right here. And I said, yeah, if it's going to go, I think that X is about where it's going to go. It still wasn't quite ready. But then right here, this was the next opportunity that it was ready. And even if we got it here, let's see, it's up 25%, 26%, not too shabby. And if he does on that, probably looking great. And look at the volume, the amount of volume that is coming into this thing. So clearly there's a lot of stuff that's happening in through here. You can see the Moxie price trigger happening right there on the daily chart. So Jennifer, I know you were asking about scans and all that kind of stuff. Well, here you go. If you're scanning using the Moxie indicator would have shown you this thing last week. And to boot, if you look at this as well, if you look at the hourly chart, this was all a trampoline move. That's what I call a trampoline move. That's price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above zero. These are all things that you're watching and being aware of and having these potential setups. And then you just look for the trigger. And then we get these things. Now, I personally didn't take bull. I didn't make an official alert. And that's okay because I took A-Lab instead. There's enough going on that, if you don't catch everything, that's totally okay. Now, A-Lab, and I think we're obviously up even more. Let's see, what are we up on this thing? Up 115% in a couple days, right there. So 24% on the stock. We're up 115% on the option, and that was the one I chose to go in instead of Weeble. Great, maybe you take both. Like whatever. That's how it's working. Yeah, Rob, nice first week in the room. That's awesome. Yeah, you like the perspective. Yeah, so that's been pretty good. Um, yeah, Andrew, as far as open door, we did short that. Let's see, high volume strike with an option, a lot of play. Yep, Brandon, exactly. The wolf thing. Let's go back and check on that thing. Has it moved yet? This garbage stock. Well, we'll see if it's still hanging out there. Okay, we'll kind of come check back on that in a little bit too. Yeah, Peloton, that's still kind of a maybe. Peloton, I don't think is really. I wouldn't think Peloton is really going to go anywhere, but it could catch fire with this whole short squeeze situation. So I don't know. But remember, this whole short squeeze we don't know how long the whole short squeeze thing is going to last, because it's just the craziness. It's the market insanity of what's happening. Brandon, Zeta. Yeah, well, Zeta's look pretty good. You got nice big volume that's coming into this thing. It just tapped the daily 50. It just tapped the hourly 50. Yeah, let me put this on my list. ZETA. ZETA. Okay. Yeah, that one looks interesting. So again, another stock that if this thing wants to go, looks like it could go. Sure, certainly. As long as it keeps holding these moving averages, I would say that looks like it's got possibility. And yeah, Caleb, welcome to the room. Looks like you were in here for about 3 weeks and then you finally made your way into the room. So that's great. Let's take a look at Woof. This one's Woof. Now, Darren, if you got your ears on in the Moxie room, I remember we were talking about Woof all the way back here, and it tried, but then kind of failed, just couldn't quite do anything. And that's fine. That's just how stocks work sometimes. But if you notice, it wouldn't go lower. Whatever this is happening at this $2.50 mark, it didn't want to go lower. So if you're really kind of looking at this as an overall stock that you wanted to trade for some reason, that's one of those things you just kind of pay attention to. And if you zoom out and you look at the bigger picture, you can kind of see that overall $2.50 thing. Like this is kind of put in a base, and you can just see that it has put in higher lows overall, and it's put in this giant double bottom through here. So it's another potential candidate. Now, would I be looking at this? Is this the thing that I really want to be trading? No, probably not. But it seems like it's probably getting some short squeeze action. Let's see. Wolf has 16% short float. So again, not crazy. It does have some, and it might be catching a little bit of fire from the whole short squeeze situation, or maybe they are just trying to rotate money because, again, when you have all these stocks that are up so high, you got to find opportunities, and they're going to be rotating money out of the big winners that are starting to get extended, and they're going to rotate them into names that have been basing, bottoming, and are done going down, and then they're going to start pumping these. So this is just more examples of those rotations. So you can see here, there's the Moxie price trigger. In fact, if you look, here's your overall double bottom, and here is your positive Moxie divergence, which helped give you the clue that something might be happening. And then look at this dip right there. That dip below the hourly 50, but the Moxie indicator stayed above zero. That is a regular trampoline move. And that's why I call it a trampoline move, guys, because you look at it and just you jump on a trampoline and it shoots you right up. That is literally a trampoline. And the next potential possibility to get into it was right there, into the 15-minute 50, and then this just thing went skyrocketing. Now, if you are, brighter side, this would be exactly the time to be using that phrase. You can finally use that phrase, and it would be 100% accurate. Rotating into crap stocks, basically. So, like, what do you do with Woof? Well, I can't chase this. I mean, if you're in, great, ride it, see how long this thing's going to go. Be prepared that any moment this short squeeze or this buying could dry up and it could just roll over and go kaputs. That's kind of the risk with this kind of stuff. But if you're in it, it did have a pretty good setup, and take advantage of it. Take advantage of it until the wheels fall off. That's kind of about the only thing you can do with these things, because they're crazy. It's just stupid stuff. All right. So let's see, kind of like what else we got going on here. Um, yeah, RXRX, brighter side. This is another one you've been mentioning. Looks like it's been kind of doing all right. It's had a big move, but it is starting to run into some prior resistance. So just remember, it kind of feels like some molasses in through here. There's a lot of previous price congestion, and it's right there. So I just wonder how much this can go up right now. Of course, it's still looking fine. It's still wanting to move. No problems yet. But just don't be surprised if anything else happens. It also kind of has a history of being pretty choppy before it really goes. And ideally, I'd still wonder if this has a pullback into the daily 50 because the daily 50 is still below the daily 200. So again, kind of keep these things on a short leash if you're going to be looking at something like this. And let's see what else we got out here. I'm just kind of looking at all my tickers. You know, um, GLXY. This is kind of the Ethereum play. I took a little bit of profit on this one, only a third. Looks like I didn't need to. This thing like an absolute beast and wanting to keep going higher. But I just we've seen a couple stocks start to move down, and so I wanted to make sure I started to take some profits, protect ourselves, all that kind of stuff. Oh, okay. The US and the EU close to a tariff deal. Okay, so we got some movement on there. Let's see if we come over to the SPX. Looks like you guys are saying things are kind of bubbling. Oh yeah, that looks like that's what's happening. Yeah, and also we closed the Japan trade deal, so some Japan news happening out there and all of that. Now, I am mostly long in this market. We've been doing pretty well, been taking some profits. I am short on basically the SPX and the IWM. I have August plays on these things, and I'm giving them a little bit of room to work, mostly because it is getting a little bit crazy out there. We are starting to see the absolute garbage come up off the lows, which tends to signal kind of the end of a bull cycle, and we know that this thing's getting a little long in the tooth, and I'm mostly looking at this. We have price persisting over the hourly 50, the Moxie indicator below zero. I'm a little concerned about this. I know I keep talking about it. I think I've been talking about it for 3 weeks. Obviously, no shorts have been working on this, but I kind of want to just make sure I have a little bit of a hedge out here because if something changes real quick, I don't want to be too surprised. So I kind of keep saying that. And, I'm like, RCAT, heck, even NVIDIA, we started seeing that. These things can come down in a hurry, which is just why I'm trying to be protective out there. Let's see. Sorry with the computer. I'm on my laptop. But yeah, you can see huge move. I told everybody, don't be surprised if this thing pulls back because it's getting a little ridiculous. And this is just what's possible. You can see here it had what, 2-3 day drop, pretty big, significant drop. And you can see ACHR. This was another one that kind of came down pretty quickly. Right in through here, everything was looking great. And decided, nope, going to come back to where I began. Okay, so I know the market's looking amazing out there. Of course, there are some crazy moves, but you just still have to protect yourself because you never know when something like this is going to happen. And that's why on something like GLXY, I took some profits. That's why things on Robinhood, we're out of that. We made over 200% on Robinhood. Look at BKSY. This is another thing. You never know when they're going to come out with a secondary offering or dilution of stock or anything else like that. And you get these things that are just doing great, looking like nothing can ever hurt them. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're down half of the entire gain. So, for as much as this market's doing great, just don't forget the market can do whatever it wants to do. And it just feels like we're getting a little bit crazy out there. And I think that's just wise to be aware of. Look at Open Door. It went up, I don't know, however many 100%, and then it pulled back halfway. You can look at FNGU. This is the leverage ETF of the FANG stocks. They kind of pop up a little bit, but then they're kind of coming down. I'm looking at something like this, and I'm kind of wondering if we can eventually get this thing to come down to the daily 50. I know that probably sounds like blasphemy or something, but I'm kind of looking at this because I don't really see any long signals on FNGU. The mega caps are kind of telling me like, hey, they're taking a breather. They're kind of coming down. Maybe they're going to pull back a little bit more. You look at something like MU, same deal. Huge, huge, huge move. Big streak. And look, it finally got tired and came down to the daily 50. That's all I'm saying, guys. We just need to be a little bit careful out there on some of these things. We can't expect everything to be going up all the time. And at some point, they're going to want to take a breather and they're going to pull back. It's not the end of the world. In fact, hey, eventually Micron is probably going to end up being a good dip buy. This is probably a really good, healthy pullback into the daily 50. And eventually that's going to give us a good opportunity to buy some stuff. But we need to be aware of that so that we don't go buy it at 125 and then we get smacked at 109. Yeah. So I just want to make sure we're communicating about that kind of stuff and being prepared on all that. I am also looking at stuff like ARKK, wildly up here. Let's see how we do. Yeah, and I actually put on a put. I put on an August put, so I've got 23 days to make this work, and it's kind of the same reason. So I see, Chuckle, you're asking me why I put this on. Well, because if you look at ARKK, if you look at FNGU, and if you look at something like Micron, well, this seems like a reasonable place that if this thing is going to stop going up and it ever starts to come back down, then that would be a reasonable place to put on a short. And so that's why I'm doing it. So I'm starting to throw some downside plays out there. I'm starting to basically kind of hedge myself a little bit. But then also we're taking trades like Wolf. We got a bunch of W names today. And yeah, we'll see. This thing's not looking so hot. I'm going to maybe risk this into tomorrow because it looks like this is kind of one of those names that needs a little bit of extra time. But again, remember, guys, told you, this is a garbage stock. This is a high risk thing. We'll see what it does. It's kind of got all the markers for being a short squeeze, but we got to see if that chain reaction is actually going to light off. Okay. So again, if anybody else is kind of watching this, that's what we're looking for. It might take a day. It might take a day to incubate. Okay. Charlie, let's see. Did I exit RCAT prior to the drop? Is now a good time to get in on that? I told you guys that if you wanted to take some profits on RCAT, that I thought it was a reasonable place the other day because it's like, hey, you should fully expect a pullback. I do not have as much of a position on RCAT as I wanted. So I said, I'm not going to take any profits. I'm going to wait for a pullback so that I can get back in to more. So something like RCAT, yes, it pulled back quite a bit. I didn't take profits on that. And I'm actually looking to buy back into this, actually add more at some point. I don't have that entry yet. I don't want to just randomly buy the dip. I cannot confirm if this is done going down or not. So I'm going to give it a little bit more time and then we'll see how the market goes and all that kind of stuff. So, okay. All right, guys. Yeah, of course, sounds like they've got some more trade deals. Now, eventually, all this good news, we've had good economic data, we've had all that kind of stuff. Eventually, all this is going to be, factored in, priced in, and then we'll see if the market kind of starts to wind on down. I see a couple questions here. Yeah, Judy, when we join, do we get the Moxie or do we buy it? The Moxie indicator is a separate thing. If you want the indicator, that's a separate tool. But if you want to come into the Moxie room, and we have these separated because a lot of times people say, hey, I don't know if I want the indicator yet. I really want to just check out your room, see what you do, how you perform, what you talk about. If I like it, then I can purchase that later. So we do keep them separate. So you don't need the Moxie indicator necessarily in order to be in the Moxie room. You can follow my trades. You can kind of just see what I do. But in order to see the way I see, that's what I use the Moxie indicator for. But clearly I use other indicators like the third ATRs and moving averages and squeezes, stuff like that. Oh yeah, and then David, yeah, we checked out Bull. That thing's looking good. Lots of volume coming into Webull. And then RKT, that is Rocket Mortgage. Think about housing. Housing seems to be a really good, strong sector, mostly because I think the idea of interest rates coming down is going to be a thing. And so they are squeezing that. I think that is part of the reason why Open Door got its squeeze, probably because the whole interest rate housing situation. And then, Wall Street Bets probably got their teeth into Open Door on that high short interest. So yeah, just remember, guys, anybody out there on the social medias, if you're interested, come on over here, simplertrading.com/moxie-monthly. We got this special running through the end of July, so only about less than 10 days. And then on August 8th, so let me see if I can write that here. August, AUG 8 is going to be the next breakout Moxie session on how to pick good stocks. All right, guys. So I will continue to be in the chat room with the rest of you. I got to work on a video. I'm at the beach house, so no day trading, and I'm gonna kind of take care of a couple videos and then go enjoy the weather.